What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Perfectly Blended podcast. On today's episode, we get to talk about something super fun. Today's not an interview, so we get to talk to you guys about Christy's throwing out the beaver teeth. If you're listening, not watching, that was fun. Okay. So anyway, today's episode, we get to talk about exceptional marriages, and that's coming up
right now.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Perfectly Blended podcast. This podcast is for blended families, for couples that want to strengthen their marriage and want a brighter future. Perfectly Blended exists to break the stigma of divorce, drop the shame and guilt holding you back, and equip marriages to thrive instead of just survive. We believe all that is possible in this life is based on the power of Jesus Christ and his ability to restore us fully. Let's dive in. What is up, everybody? Welcome to today's show. We have an amazing show for you today. At least we think it's going to be amazing.
Because it's not an interview, it's us.
It's us, which makes it the most amazing thing of our show. We hope. I don't know. All right, so tonight we want to talk about extraordinary marriages, right? Extraordinary is
exceptional.
Exceptional. Yeah, those are strong words, right? Those are like bold claims to marriage. But, there is some ways. There's some ways that you can really put forth a ton of energy into your marriage and really have some guaranteed results. So we want to talk about the 3 things you should stop doing. And then the very last thing, you're going to want to stay to the end for that. You're going to want to watch because we're going to tell you the one thing you should start doing. Okay. But before we jump into that, we want to let you know that if you're watching right now, if you watched on September 6th of 2022 or before November 5th, you can go on right now, joshandchristy.com, and register for our Perfectly Blended event. If you're in Michigan or near Michigan, we are going to be in the Flint area. This is where we're going to be having it. It's going to be awesome. It's a whole day event. We have guest speakers. It's going to be a blast. We have a grand prize worth $750. It's going to be fun.
It is.
It's going to be a lot of fun. So I want to encourage you guys to go there, joshandchristy.com, and get signed up. If you haven't already done so, be part of the cool kids. Okay, so how to have an exceptional marriage. Do you have anything before we kind of dive into this? Anything on your beautiful mind?
No, just our event, and you already said it.
Okay. Other than that, you just ready to just choo. Let's get her going.
That's the only thing I would have to say.
Hey, beep. Here we come, people.
Okay, so
here we go.
My grandma had... yesterday was Josh's birthday, and it turned out to be a not so exceptional day. So on Sunday, though, we had 2 days planned. So Sunday, we had planned the cake and ice cream where everybody comes over, my grandma, my uncles, and his parents, and we, sing happy birthday and celebrate him. And then on Monday, his actual birthday, we were just going to go out to dinner, just us and our kids. So Sunday, everybody comes over. My grandma comes over. She's 87. And she goes to leave and she just said, I'm just not feeling well. I feel like, I need to burp or I feel like I'm going to throw up. And she got home and then she called my uncle and said, she wasn't feeling well. So my uncle drove over to her house. Anyway, took her to the hospital. Long story short, Monday we were at the hospital with my grandma. And while we were at the hospital, our youngest texted us and said that our Chihuahua had a seizure. So we were dealing with that too. But my grandma had a hiatal hernia that has been growing for decades, apparently, in her. The doctors told my uncle that maybe 40 years.
That's a long been growing.
But anyway, it's huge, and it was pushing up all of her organs, cutting off her lungs and putting pressure on her heart. It eventually got so big she could eat nothing. She couldn't even drink water, and she'd start throwing up. So she had surgery today. It was a great success. She's back in her room
especially
now, out of post-op. My uncle's up there now, tending to her. He's been with her all day. And it was good to hear. It was good to hear that the surgery went so well, and she's going to feel so much better. And our dog, Josh took her to the vet today. She's going to be fine. She's on antibiotics. And
yeah, she had an open wound. So, Christy kind of missed talking about that. And that yesterday morning we woke up to our dog bleeding. And so, of course, it was Labor Day and we couldn't take her to the vet. And
it was his birthday.
So anyway, that's okay, right? I turned 47 and I had a pity party for part of the day. And then I turned into an adult, and God and I had a discussion, and he won. And so the rest of the day was really good.
Yeah, we just had a lot going on.
We had a lot going on.
We
That's
had
okay.
That's life. Going on.
I have many other days of the year that I get celebrated like it's my birthday. So shame on me for trying to pout yesterday is all I have to say. So
Aw,
yeah.
okay, that's nice.
Many other days of the year, I'm very spoiled. My wife spoils me a lot. So, and so is my family and my church and my friends and everybody does. So I learned a lot yesterday about myself. And it doesn't, I don't need a day of my life to celebrate to make it special. If things don't go my way, I need to get mad about it. Like, who am I? Like, who do I think I am, number one? And number two, it's a good lesson for me. It's a good lesson to me that all these things happening around in life is happening for me, not to me. And that's my opportunity to grow from that. So yesterday was one of my growth birthdays. Okay. I learned how to grow through it.
And he never used to be that way. I've just rubbed off on him.
What's that?
So you started pouting that things weren't going your way. So your tiara has fallen onto my head. And mine was tipped yesterday. No, but it was a lot. It was a lot yesterday. But today we got good news. My grandma's surgery went well. We took Nala to the vet.
Yep.
And
lots of victories.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, it was a good day. So we want to talk about marriage. Like, there you go. You got all kinds of personal stuff. You want our social security number? Stay tuned later.
He asked.
We'll give it all.
Me.
There you go. You got all kinds of personal stuff about us, which is fun, right? You got to know a little bit about us. So how to have an exceptional marriage, right? Exceptional marriages are hard to have, which means there's things we need to stop doing, and then there's things that we need to start doing. So the very first thing is right there is you need to stop comparing. Stop comparing.
And that is really hard to do in this day and age, in this society. It hasn't been for me so much now in our marriage, but when I was married the first time and I would see people that seemed to have like this thriving marriage and this house and this great family, I was constantly comparing because, I was miserable in my life, and it was very difficult to do. And God doesn't want us to compare, no matter where we are at in our lives. Yep. God doesn't want us comparing our journey to someone else's journey. He wants us taking care of the things that He's given to us, and He will bless us accordingly. God giveth and God taketh away. Everything goes through Him. And it can be hard to do that. Like if you see a couple that's been married for 40 years and they're building this magnificent house and they've been together for 10 years and they're building this magnificent house and they have beautiful children and everything seems all amazing on the outside. You're the only one that knows your own struggles, in your marriage. And they have struggles too. No matter what Facebook shows or social media shows, they have struggles too. And be appreciative of the biggest way to stop comparing your marriage to someone else's marriage or someone else's success, quote unquote, is to start being thankful and being appreciative of the things that you do have and what God has blessed you with and what does go well in your marriage and the awesome things that you guys have together. So
yeah, I've realized over the years, like it's super easy for us to, like if we're struggling in something in our marriage, we see other marriages that are thriving in that. And we think to ourselves, I want my marriage to be like that person's marriage, right? This whole highlight reel thing. And what we don't realize is maybe that marriage is struggling in every other area. And that area just happens to be something they're good at. And that's super dangerous because then we start to kind of model ourselves or wish that we could model ourselves after these specific people. And that's an unfair way to do things, right? So God tells us in His word a specific way to live our lives. And it's never to model what everybody else is doing because we don't know what it is. It's to model Him.
Yeah.
And so God's word really tells us exactly how to live in all aspects of our lives. And we need to start treating our marriage as such, right? So taking personal responsibility for things in your marriage, knowing that what happens in your marriage needs to stay behind closed doors. A lot of these things that we seem to kind of just let loose, or we see outside influences and stuff, like, oh girl, let me talk to you about my marriage because it looks like yours is working. First off, other people aren't going to gossip about their own marriage and about how broken it is if you are doting on them about how successful it is, right? So they're not going to start releasing all of these bad things that are going on. So the comparison model is extremely dangerous, extremely dangerous. First off, you're asking yourself to be set up for failure because success doesn't come from modeling other people's marriages. It comes from modeling the Word of God. And we have to make sure that we're doing the things right the way that God tells us to do it, not the way that the world tells us that it's supposed to look like.
Well, and the thing about it is that what works for you may not work for someone else. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that comes to when we start comparing or we start judging So it's usually one or two things. We look at a marriage and we start judging the things that they do in their marriage to try to make ourselves feel better, if you're being honest with yourself, or you start comparing and making yourself feel negative. And both are bad, because if you're judging the marriage, there is an insecurity inside of you. That's something that I've been convicted about lately. We all have judging thoughts, and none of us like to talk about it because we fear that people will look at us differently. So when someone's doing something, even on an individual level, I may look at them and judge them like, I can't believe they parent that way, or I can't believe, they let their husband do that, or they do that to their husband type of thing. But I have to get caught in that. And God is really convicting me to say, who am I to judge that person? Like, how is that affecting me? It isn't. And that's none of my business. And how they are doing that doesn't affect me in my life. So it goes both ways when it comes to comparison. Like, you may be judging them, and when you judge them, you're comparing it to you to make yourself feel better. So true. Or you're comparing to make yourself feel worse. And both are bad. Both are bad. Like, if you just internally focus on what you need to do to be a better spouse with your marriage, and don't let others affect you, other judgments or your judgment on someone else, it will go so much farther. I mean, that seriously is the secret sauce to marriage, and it's funny because, once we understand like how God has designed us to be, right? We talk about the 8 Beatitudes a lot because, that's where the 12 steps came from, right? In recovery, it's something that's been a big part of Christy and I. And we take and we apply all of this to our marriage. And how do we do that? Well, we apply it to ourselves, and then we apply that to our marriage. And so when we start comparing ourselves, like Christy's saying, we kind of leave ourselves out of it. We start saying, I need to compare Christy to this, not compare me to this. And that's super dangerous, right? We're leaving out the thing that's really, really important. And that's, how do I change? How do I impact and influence what's going on? And instead, we're looking at like all the things that need to be fixed on the outside of us instead of the things that need to be changed on the inside of us. Comparison is dangerous. Super dangerous, right? So that's the first thing you need to stop doing, is you need to stop comparing. And the second thing you need to stop doing is you need to stop demanding. Yeah. And
demand.
And this is a slippery slope. Okay. I'm going to use the Keurig as an example.
Oh man.
Because
this is fighting words here, people. I'm about to fight on the air right now. Here it goes.
So it's a slippery slope, because if you do things for your spouse, or your spouse does things for you, it can be all of a sudden you turn into, not in an unhealthy way, it's an expectation. Like, you're not in an unhealthy way expecting them to do it. You just wake up and expect it to be there because they've always done it, right? So then all of a sudden you're like, okay, so Josh filled the Keurig for me every day for years. Without fail. Years. I never woke up to an empty Keurig pot. And one day I got convicted, which I still believe is a lesson that God's teaching me, okay? Because one day I got convicted, and I'm like, man, every single morning, and I've never noticed it before or thought about it, I get up and I can fill my coffee and empty the Keurig, basically, because I do 2 big cups in my big jug, and leave it empty.
Of coffee.
I leave it empty and I leave for the day, right? And one day, it had been years, and I'm just like, I have never once, shame on me, I have never once thought to refill this Keurig for Josh. I'm like, this will actually be kind of nice. Like, I'm going to refill it for him so it's full when he comes out. When he gets done, he'll refill it for me, and then it'll kind of be a cycle. And for me, it's like different. If it's already full before you make your coffee, it's awesome. If you have to refill it after you've already got your coffee, it's no big deal. Okay. And so I refill it for him one time, and it sent us into a spiral.
It sent you into a spiral.
Oh my gosh. He stopped filling the Keurig for me. Like, I got up repeatedly mornings and I'm just like,
it's empty.
What the crap? It's empty. And I'm like, I started doing this nice thing for him, and he is not refilling the Keurig.
Backfired.
Yeah, it backfired. So I texted him one day and I was like, listen, this isn't the way it works. Okay. Like, I'm supposed to fill it for you, and you're supposed to fill it for me. It's like, I've done this nice thing for you, and you just completely just went off the grid with like not refilling. And he's like, let's just go back to the way it was. And I'm like, that's not even what I'm...
Okay, because let's be honest, right? So the whole Keurig thing ended up backfiring on me because I just filled it up every morning. Like that was just my thing that I did, right? It was cool. And now it's like I have this pressure of I have to remember to fill it. I have to now remember to, and if I don't, it's like I'm not this doting husband, right? I'm not this caring, loving, tiara placing husband. And so
but
I'm
that's
like,
a demand,
and then I
right?
forgot, and it is a demand, and then I forgot, and then I would forget, and that's just not an.
But he never did until I filled it for him.
Didn't have to, like it was natural. I always did it first because I needed it.
God's teaching me a lesson though, because I seriously am still getting convicted about this. Like, how many years did he fill it for me? And then had to refill it for himself and never said a word.
Shut up, Stacy. She's like sounds very reasonable, Christy.
It is reasonable, but God's still teaching me a lesson though by saying, how many years did you fill it for me and then fill it for yourself? And you never said a word.
Yeah.
And now I fill it for you and it threw you off your morning routine. You're, honestly forgetting. And I'm mad about it. Like how could I do it for years and not say anything to him? No, I couldn't even do it for a week. So, I mean, it's seriously. So it's like, stop demanding things. Like he did that for me out of the kindness of his heart. And I could return the favor. He does many, 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 many other things for me besides just filling the Keurig, and I turned into like this brat about it. And I feel like I'm getting convicted by God about it too, because, and this doesn't mean to stop.
No. So no, trust me, I understand that. I'm wise enough to know better. Okay.
So, but it is like turning me on to, how many demands do we put on Jesus? And Jesus, God sent his son to die on the cross for our sins, and that's all he should have to do.
So good.
That's all he should have had to do. Yeah. And we should live the rest of our lives for him. And he did the ultimate thing. He did the ultimate sacrifice. And we still expect him to cure our diseases or save this or give us the promotion and do all of these things. And he's already died on the cross. Like, we believe in him, we're going to go to heaven. Like, nothing else should matter. Yeah. And I know that's very large, but that's how we are to love our spouse.
Agreed.
Is sacrificially. And my husband did this thing for me for years. And yes, we laugh about it now, and it is kind of a twinge of in there, but it is like I should be able to do it for him now for years and not say a word, and I couldn't. And God is really convicting me about that. Like some of part of me, my human fleshly part, is he created this monster.
Oh, here we go.
He worked very hard for 3 or 4 years, breaking down all my independent, self-sustaining walls to allow me to come in, him to come in, and for him to take care of me and open doors for me, and all these things. So he created it. That's me.
This is the thing, right? When it comes to demanding, right? This is the thing when it comes to demanding. Is Christy's never been a demanding person on me, though.
No.
So I've always saw her in the light of she deserves so much more than what the world has ever given her. And so I want to make sure that she has everything that her heart desires, right? And I mean everything that I'm capable of doing as a husband, like the little things, because the little things matter. And I know that. I know that they matter. And so, I want to make sure that I'm able, and I think I look at that as, if we could take any lesson away from stop demanding, is that if we want to start making things in our relationship and our marriage thrive to a certain degree or even higher than what it is and be exceptional, we need to stop demanding things out of our spouse and just start delivering, right? Start delivering. Just start delivering and stop being like, okay, I'm not going to have any expectations. I have nothing coming back, right? I'm not expecting anything to come back. I just want to serve in a non-demanding way to my spouse every day.
Well, in the last month, you have forgot to fill the Keurig one time, and it was last week or something like that.
Remembers the day.
And I got up, and I noticed that it wasn't full, and I am like, he didn't fill it, but that's okay. I'm not going to be mad about it, and I wasn't. But then on top of that, I'm like, and I felt really good about it. I'm like, nope, I'm just going to fill it up. And then the next level is, and you won't say anything. Like, you're not going to tell him, right? No. Well, I told him.
Yeah.
I told him the next day. He mentioned something about the Keurig, and I'm like, yeah, you didn't fill it up yesterday. I'm like, I failed. So yeah, God's going to have to give me another test because I failed that one. Because I did fill it, and I had a good heart about it. But my next level about it was you weren't to say anything. And that is the biggest thing, if you know me, is my mouth.
The biggest thing of you is your mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I think it, I saith it.
It's literally comes right out.
Yeah. As one thinketh,
Be like,
one saith.
You just said this. She'd be like, I don't even remember saying that. It's like she didn't even think it. Her mouth thinks it. And
Yeah.
it just comes out.
So God and I are working on that.
So number 1 is stop comparing. Number 2 is stop demanding, right? Stop
Yeah.
demanding.
What do you demand out of me? Do you demand anything?
No, but I have realized though, like the respect thing, when I feel like I'm not getting enough respect from you about something, I feel like I want to like lightly nudge you.
You get bratty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With my brattiness,
Mhm.
which is unfair. And I need to like woosah myself with that. You know, it's.
But I consider that fair.
I know, but I don't. I need to allow God to work on your heart on things like that, and not allow Josh to work on you on that. You know, it's. I'm not talking about disrespect. I'm talking about I'm talking about going kind of next level with things, like because you're very, very good at that. Like you're very good at like being complimentary to me, like hardcore, like always telling me wonderful things about me. You know, which is probably like she's probably handing me ribbons all the time. To be honest with you, I probably suck at a lot of things, and she's just constantly making me feel good, like I'm Superman.
Participation trophies.
Yeah, like I got tons of participation trophies. I'm thinking I'm winning races, when in all reality I'm not.
That's untrue.
But you're very good about making sure that I feel respected until you're not, and then I feel like it's my job to like demand that from you.
Oh, gotcha.
And that's not right? So it's easy for me to get caught up in that loop too, and I have to play the mind game and say, pray to God and be like, okay, give me patience with this, and you always come back. I mean, the one thing we have to understand is that we're married to humans, you know, and like humans are humans, and we're not going to be perfect all of the time. And our responses, you know, of our expectations on the response from our spouse is almost always off in all reality. And so, you know, putting those demands on our spouse is just super.
Well, I'm going to use yesterday as an example. So yesterday I knew he was upset. Okay. He was short-tempered the first half of the day. He was short with me. Driving like a maniac. He was sharp-tongued. And instead of allowing that to make me angry, I actually felt bad, you know, and I really was. I kept telling him, because I knew me getting angry and being like, oh my gosh, like my grandma's in the hospital, like all these things, it's not going to make him feel any better. And so I wanted to be like, I am really sorry. Like I felt really bad, you know, and he was like, you don't need to apologize. And I'm like, I know, but I still feel bad. Of course, all of this is happening on the day that we had these special plans to go out to dinner and all of these things. And it does suck, you know. Last year, his birthday kind of fell through. I mean, we ended up being able to go out to dinner, but it was just awful service. It turned out.
Don't go to the Blind Fish in Lapeer. It's garbage.
Babe.
Don't care. They should have better food.
Anyway. So this was going to be our redeeming year. Like, we're redeeming it this year. And then we couldn't for circumstances out of our control. And then he did come back around. See? And I think that is good example of allowing God to work on the spouse. Like me praying internally, like, Lord, you know, I feel really bad. Help his heart, help this, help me, you know, be the proper spouse to him during this time. God worked it out, you know, with him. And then he came back later midday and said, hey, I'm really sorry. I prayed and I'm better. And all these things, but we have to allow God. God gets vengeance. And it even says in the Bible, if you get vengeance, then what do I need to get vengeance for? It doesn't say it exactly like that, but it says that in the Bible, you need to allow God to give the vengeance. Don't worry about the man that goes after his own reward. He's got his reward. I'll reward you that are allowing me to reward you. And that's what we have to allow God to do. Because if we try to do it ourselves, then he'll be like, fine.
Well, and I know that you love me because you don't let people act like that to you. Like yesterday. If you know her, you know that's true, especially men. And so I know that she loves me, and I'm not stupid, right? I am getting the full feedback when I'm dishing it out, and I know that I'm acting like a spoiled baby. And she lets me gracefully come back, and I apologize because that's, you know, I said I'm sorry. That was the right thing to do. But she didn't put a demand on me, you know, she didn't, and she allowed the day to play out like it was, and yeah, God.
So that's two examples. One, demanding. I am demanding. I need to stop demanding him about the Keurig. It's hard for me to even say that because I really want him to fill it. Okay.
And I really try.
Number two is the times that he was having, you know, an little short-tempered day, which is rare for him, to not demand that he come around when I expect him to come around when God, you know, nudges him to come around.
Yeah.
So it's good.
It is good. Okay, so that's the first two. Number 3, right? The third thing you need to stop doing is you need to stop escaping. Stop escaping.
Yeah, and I think this is two for me, it means two things. And I'll let him talk about the one. Hopefully it's the one that he wanted to talk about, because a lot of people, like if they are struggling in their relationship, or there's some unmet expectations, or someone's unhappy and they don't want to have the conversation, they'll escape by playing on their phone or doing this or doing that. But my thing is stop escaping when you two are busy. So what has happened in our relationship is we are so busy. God has slowed us down because of my foot surgery. But what has happened with my slowdown is I have to sit at home, put my foot up.
My dog is snoring hardcore.
I don't know if they could hear it or not, but it's very loud. But I have to sit down. I have to put my foot up a lot because it's just not going well. It's not healing right. It's not doing all of these things. But what has happened while I am sitting there putting my foot up is I've really gotten until recently. I mean, just a few days ago, I was really ho-hum about it. And so to escape the ho-hum feeling, I was just playing on my phone a lot. I was just turning on movie after movie after movie because I can get lost in movies. As soon as commercials come on, my brain comes back on. So I like movies because movies just keep going. And now I found that movies weren't even keeping my attention. So I'll have a movie going and be playing on my phone at the same time to try to escape being still.
The monotony.
Yeah. And learning the lesson that God has wanted me to learn. So that's the thing too in your marriage is stop. Like maybe you guys have slowed down. Maybe you guys do need to spend just quiet time just sitting there, not on your phones. Like
intentional.
Couldn't you? Like I can't even tell you the last time that Josh and let's not turn the TV on. No, let's not get on our phones and let's just sit here on the couch and just talk to one another.
Mm-mm.
I can't tell you the last time.
We have to leave the house to do that.
Yeah. And so we have to get in our marriages, to me, that's a form of escape. You sit down, you're in the same room. Yes. But when's the last time you've spent intentional time together? Like sitting in the room, being on your phones or watching TV is not intentional time. And that's escaping. That's escaping your long day at work. It's escaping your responsibilities of having to think about an event coming up or your bills that you have to pay or your kids that aren't listening. And so by escaping your life, you're escaping your marriage. And you need to come together because you're best friends and your partner's in it. And you need to, I'm putting that on our to-do list. We're doing that.
It's there. I think it's important that we understand that it's when you're escaping, it's easy to be strangers passing each other in the night.
Yeah.
It's being just friends at home and not really, paying attention and not being intentional about things. We have got to quit escaping. Escaping can look really, really good though. It can look like work.
Yeah.
It could look like serving at church.
Yeah.
It could look like all these wonderful things, right? Hobbies, like, oh no, this is my relaxation time. No, it is an escape. We have to be real with ourselves and say, are we just escaping things? Are we feeling deserved in our, the things that we're doing and we're owed this time and start getting into a selfish mode? Or are we like, no, we need to be intentional at the time with our marriage and our loved ones, our spouse, and being intentional with that and stop trying to escape and run away from the things that need to happen, the hard conversations. It's so easy to run away from conversations that that need to be had, when you just need to have them and get beyond them and stop escaping.
Well, and I think church is a really prime example because you have to be confident in yourself and in your marriage to have that conversation. So a lot of people may go to the church and say, hey, if they run Awana and they run and they're constantly serving on the welcome team and they're doing all these things, and they go and they're like, hey, we need to step away for a little bit. First off, the church is nosy because they want to be there for you. I'm not saying that in a negative sense. They want to make sure you're okay. And they want to make sure like you're not going to leave the church or you're going to seclude yourself and all these things. But so if you say like, no, we need to step away because we want to work on us. Some people in the church or some churches will be like, well, what do you mean?
Right. What's wrong?
Do you need to counseling? should you be in leadership right now if you're having problems in your marriage? So you have to be confident to say, no, we just are giving. We don't want to get into burnout. Our marriage has gotten put on the back burner. We need 2 or 3 weeks to where we can recenter ourselves, which is what is important: God, marriage, everything else. And we can come back. And you have to be confident when you're stating that to the church, though, and not allow them to make you feel like something's wrong with you doing that, or should be much more wrong in order for you to do that. Like, this is healthy maintenance. Like, we're doing marriage maintenance, and we can't wait for us to get to the point where we're sleeping in separate bedrooms, or we're passing ships in the night, or we're bitterness to each other to be like, oh, we got to step away, burn out. And then we're arguing the whole time to get back together in order to make our marriage work. Like, you can do marriage maintenance and be okay. Like, that doesn't have to be explained to anybody else, or be okay with everybody else.
Yeah, tough. It's
just tough in church, though, because they may take you out of leadership and stuff if they feel like.
You can apply the same concept, though, to family, to friends, to everybody. You can apply this same concept of, we have to learn how to stop escaping, and we can make it look super good. Like, you take the kids to this practice, I take the kids over here to this. Like, no, we're all going to go together. Like, it's easy to get lost up. Phones are a real problem today. Like, they are just a problem. It's a problem in our marriage. It's a problem, I would say, in most people's marriage. It's easy to escape. I've earned it. I deserve it. And it's like, we haven't earned or deserved anything until we've poured into our marriage first. And let's be honest with ourselves. Are we doing these things? Are we making sure this is good? And then we want to sit and play on our phones for a while. Like, let's do that. But let's be intentional about this first.
Or set intentional time. Like, you two can play on your phones, not on Tuesdays between 7 and 8, because that's for us, Josh and Christy, to watch Perfectly Blended. But if you set time during the week to say, okay, from 8 to 9, we can sit and we can play on TikTok or play a game on our phone or scroll Facebook or whatever we want to do. But that's our set aside time to do that. And then all other time is off limits. It's easier that way to do.
For sure. So, as a recap of the 3 stops, right? Stop comparing, stop demanding, and stop escaping, which is going to lead us to our final point, which is something that you should start doing, right? The thing you should start doing. You need to start going above the standard. Going above the standard.
Yeah, and I would say blissfully that I feel like Josh and I's marriage is above the standard of most others that we know, because we do a lot together.
We're intentional.
We're intentional about it. We usually, we like to go by the 80-20 rule. So 80% of the time, if you're doing it, and 20% of the time you're not, that's normal living. So, like, we do the grocery shopping together, and we take the dogs to the vet together if we can, if it's not during the day, when I'm at work. But we like to do the things together. We like to go to family functions together. One doesn't go if the other one doesn't go. And those are things that we set up. I mean, that's something that we didn't talk about. We haven't talked about before, but it was like we made an agreement at the beginning of our relationship. Like, if there's a family function, if one of us doesn't feel like going, and we do sit down and we have a healthy conversation about it, and it's decided that we aren't going to go, neither one of us goes. And we want to make sure the other person isn't just throwing a fit, like, nope, I'm not going to go type of thing, which has never been our relationship. But if it's decided together, like, no, I really can't go. And it's usually on me. Like, if I, have a panic attack or anxiety or something like that, which has only happened one time. To say I just really can't go, then he doesn't go. And we've made that.
I don't desert you.
Yeah. We've made that to another standard that's in our relationship. There's a lot of standards that we have in our relationship that really work for our marriage and has really made our bond stronger. It's not to say that we haven't had some battles that we've had to go through with outsiders and together, but it's really made our marriage strong.
It is. And she's talking, our standards are above the standard.
Thank you.
We've intentionally done that. One of the things that we do that most people that we've talked to, a lot of people don't, a lot of people don't do, is we go to bed at the same time. Now, Christy gets up earlier than I do. Well, she used to. Well, she does still. Probably more average earlier
It's going
than
to
I do.
start again because he's had to get up and take me to work because of my foot.
But I still don't go to bed at the same I don't go to sleep the same time she does. But we go to bed together, right? And the compromise in that is I'll go into the bed with you if I can watch television, for the last hour or whatever while you're sleeping, and she has agreed to that. And that's a compromise that we made, so we don't have to compromise me not going to bed together, because us going to bed together is important for us.
It has.
It's a unity thing with us and our marriage, and most people don't do that.
I didn't in my last marriage.
No, me neither. No, me neither. I didn't care to. I didn't want to. I had no desire to. But that's my point, right? It's the small things, making sure that you have shared hobbies, things that you like to do together, things that you're being intentional about, and saying, I don't want the standard to be just a normal marriage, right? It's not this whole, if you watch the majority of television programs, that they talk about marriage, like Everybody Loves Raymond, if you've ever seen that TV show, it's more like they just kind of pick on each other and make fun of each other. And it's like, that's kind of the standard. The standard is what gets people into the issues that cause divorce. Complacency, right? And we have to start doing things that are going to cause us to live above the standard. So you have to ask yourself, what are you doing in your marriage currently to live above the standard? What are you doing differently than what other people are willing to do?
Yeah, like picking on each other at each other's expense is just a huge turnoff to me. Like I don't understand.
It's not funny.
It's not funny to me. Like when couples start doing that around me, I'm just like, ugh.
Or talking about how other of the opposite sex looks.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of marriages though don't like that. But it's a lot of marriages that we do know, they pick at each other, like make fun of each other, to be funny. And I'm just like, I don't like that. I don't know. That's just, to me, it's just chipping away at the trust. And if it works for your marriage, that's fine. But it's not.
I don't know. I think that's just living the standard or below the standard. Living above the standard is this. We have mostly boys, right? And mostly boys like to talk about girls, right? And I never have ever one time ever engaged in a conversation with them about how another female looks. And I've intentionally done that, right? That is not something that's a good standard for my marriage. It's not good camaraderie with my kids. It's living above a standard in my marriage. I'm letting my boys know that I love and I only have eyes for my wife, and that is not something that I engage in. And that's something that purposely is intentional, for us to live above a standard, and that's something that a lot of people think is probably small or minute, and it's not. Those are the little things that make up above the standard of living.
Yeah, we've been around a couple before, and it was so uncomfortable because the guy kept talking about how other women looked. We were out in summertime, people were wearing bathing suits and stuff. And the woman started talking about how their men looked. And it's just weird because I'm just like, and it's weird because our codependency too, like we didn't want to make them feel bad. So then it was like, please don't, like, they weren't like, hey, Christy, what do you think about this guy? Or, hey, Josh, they weren't doing that. Thank God. Because I would be like, I don't do that, but I was just like, please don't, because I don't want you to make them feel bad about what they're doing, which technically we probably should have sat down and been like, hey, you guys, like, we're uncomfortable with that. That's what friends do. We talk about that all the time, and we just didn't. We just ignored it, and we're super uncomfortable the whole time. And then when we left, we're like, we're never doing that again.
That was super uncomfortable.
It is, because you don't want also to be encouraging other married couples to be checking out other people, either. No. So it was just, I don't know.
That's the standard.
Yeah.
That's the standard. And we have to be willing to live above the standard.
Yeah.
Right. Live above.
Thanks for bringing it back, babe.
That's right. So as review real quick before we shut this down. Okay. The 4 things, the 3 stops, the 1 start. The first stop is stop complaining, stop demanding, stop escaping. Okay. And then the 4th thing is the thing you need to start doing today is start living above the standard. You have to choose to live above the standard of what the world says for marriage. You want exceptional marriage, you have to start living accordingly. And that's living above the standard.
Mm-hmm.
You have anything
I love
else
that.
Before we shut it down?
No, I think I've said quite a lot.
Do you have cotton mouth?
No.
You dry mouth? No,
Mm-mm.
you're good. Okay, all right, we're good.
I talk all the time.
Yeah, which is good. Women talk twice as many words a day as the guy does. So.
I would challenge that to say like 3 times probably.
Ooh, there we go. We want to thank everybody for being here. If you haven't had a chance yet to sign up for our Perfectly Blended event for blended families, it's a marriage event. It's coming up November 5th. You can go to joshandchristy.com. What's the eyes for, girl?
Nothing.
I can see them eyes.
I'm just listening.
Okay. You can go to joshandchristy.com, get signed up. If you do it before October 1st, it's going to be free, just so you know. So go there, get signed up, and that's all we have, right?
Yep.
That's all we have. All right. We'll see you guys next Tuesday at 7.
Bye.